So what kind of algebra topic should you expect from a finite mathematics course? Hi, I'm Jimmy, and we're here to talk about that. I'm going to give you an overview as to what kind of areas a typical finite math course will cover, and then I'll discuss with you very briefly about what kind of algebra is expected from these topics. So the very first topic that typically is covered is set theory. Now, set theory basically just talks about combining elements from sets. Basically, what you're being asked to do is to combine what the two sets have in common, as well as putting the sets together and see how many elements you have at the very end, or rather, how many things that they have in common. And there's a lot of addition, subtraction involved, and most of the time you're working with whole numbers, so there isn't a lot of in-depth hardcore mathematics. However, the one thing you may have to keep in mind is exponent rules. So like, for example, if you're asked to find out, for example, what 2 to the third happens to be, you might be expected to know that 2 to the third power is 8. Now, the second kind of topic that you might be expected to go over in a finite math course is that of logic. There really isn't a lot of algebra in this particular topic in that you're working with mostly new symbols that you may not have seen before, and the only kind of algebra that might be expected is, again, that of exponents. So for example, you might be expected, let's just say, to find out what 2 to the fourth power is, and after a little bit of work you might see that 2 to the fourth power is 16. A third kind of topic that typically is covered in a finite math course is that of probability. With probability, there is a lot of multiplication, division, quite a bit of fraction work, addition, subtraction as well, but for the most part, the math that you're going to be going over here is arithmetic. A fourth topic is statistics. There's a lot of number gathering, addition, subtraction. You might be asked how to square something. For example, 5 squared, you'll be expected to know is 25. And the little bit of algebra that you might be expected to use here is square root. In other words, if you want to find the square root of 16, it's going to be 4. And last but not least, in a finite math course, you typically get into geometry. Not the proofs, but finding the area, volume of things, and something known as the Pythagorean Theorem, which you know to be a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And the only thing that you might be expected to do is take the square root. So here's how algebra is used in finite mathematics.